This episode of the Pepperdynamics podcast is an initiative of the Pepperdine University chapter of Net Impact. The initiative is to help leaders broaden their thinking, build their network, and scale their impact beyond just individual actions.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to Pepperdynamics Podcast, the informal podcast of the Graziadio Business School, where we highlight, inform, recruit, and retain for the Graziadio Business School. Our guest today is Will Moseley. Greetings, Will. Thanks for joining us.
How you doing? Good to be here.
Doing good, Will. Shady, I got to talk to you in this mask, but we're still locked down in this
I gotta
pandemic.
make it work.
We're here on campus. We're going into our second year, right? Which I'm happy to say that I'm going in my second year and happy to be on campus. Of course, last year, you and I were all virtual, and, that took a toll on some of us. Some of us thrived in it. But now we're on campus, so I'm happy to be here on campus.
Yeah, me too.
I think looking at the road you took in terms of you were specific about finding an internship that kind of had to do with sustainability, aeronautics kind of situation. And so you were diligent in what you were looking for. Of course, your concentration here is leadership and managing organizational behavior, managing organizational change. I should know that because it's my concentration also, right?
It's a long name for concentration. Yeah.
Exactly. But I want to ask you about coming into Pepperdine a year ago. What were your thoughts? What were the outcomes you were looking for in terms of getting an MBA and joining a full-time MBA program?
Yeah. I mean, I'd come into the program hot off of a 1.5 year stint in commercial forestry and was looking to hone some management skill sets that I'd worked before that for 7 years in restaurant management as director of operations. And that's about as hands-on as you can get with personnel management. It was great. But commercial forestry and sustainability was where my passion really lies. And so I came in to get the MBA after that forestry stint, really looking to hone those management skills and to understand a little bit more about how I could pursue that sustainability piece in business around commercial forestry. It's one thing to work in the woods and be out there measuring trees every day, and then to go back in the corporate side and see how it works from the accounting. But, the long-term sustainability strategy, that was a piece that was really appealing to me. And the MBA at Pepperdine, tied together with the SEER certificate, really was an appealing piece for me. So I was happy to find the program and even more happy to start to dive into that.
That's a passion of yours, the sustainability. Where does that stem from?
Well, looking forward, you're really not going to be able to have profitability without sustainability in any kind of company ethos. 10, 20 years ago, CSR, corporate social responsibility, was really what it was called. And that was just kind of at the beginning stages of making its way into sort of the main missions of companies big and small. And working in the woods in forestry may seem kind of like a weird, why would you care about sustainability if you're cutting down trees? But, to be honest, it's kind of a small-minded view of what, a renewable resource like forests can do for our economies, our buildings, our basically just our way of life and the products. We're touching them every day, So for me is to understand, hey, how can I push this industry forward, but do it in a way that's sustainable and not just hey, whatever we take, we got to replace, but, whatever we take, we got to rebuild and rebuild even better than before. For too long, we've really been in this we take it, we replace it, that's fine, but we've been doing so much lasting damage up until now. It's like, do you really want to be fine at this point where you're really not good at all?
That's interesting. You're going to use that passion out. You're involved with Net Impact this year.
Yeah, so I'll be taking over the role as Net Impact President.
Okay.
And their theme this year is the regenerative economy. So reimagine capitalism for people and planet. And this is basically saying, society must urgently work together to evolve an economic system that leverages regenerative principles. So very much in line with the Pepperdine SEER program and how that started and where it's going now. So thrilled to be heading up Net Impact into this year. We can all be in person and hopefully attack some of those goals.
Yeah, leadership is not something that's foreign to you. I imagine working in the company you work with, being involved. Talk to me about your approach to leadership as you go into leading a student organization, right? It's a different dynamic when you're talking about employees as opposed to students. Of course, MBA students are a little older, so, that's that part. But talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, first of all, any kind of academic system is totally unique, and often we don't even realize it until we're gone. But what a diverse group of people you can get in the same room with different backgrounds and leaning on all their different skill sets and strengths and weaknesses. And I don't know if there's any other time in your life outside of school when you get access to a situation like that where, you're forced into, for lack of a better word, the same classroom with folks and say, hey, you have to work with these people.
Right.
And, if you're at a job and you're like, I don't work well with these people, you go and you talk to HR, they place you somewhere with it, but for school, it's you talk to people and you understand you all come from different backgrounds and everyone has different strengths that contribute to any problem. And finding a way to make those all gel together, that's the end goal. And it's just like with any leadership, whether you're leading a team of 4 or 400, finding where your gaps are and filling them with the folks who have strengths in those areas. And it's a really fun challenge to come on campus now and do that after we were doing that, virtually for so long and kind of getting used to that.
Of course, a part of our program is an internship in the summer. And what I saw with you was looking specifically to find a very specific type of internship. Of course, we all shot for the stars and landed where we landed. And some of us, like yourself, landed in a place that kind of fulfilled if not all of the goals you were trying to accomplish for an internship. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely looking for a kind of a niche area. Forestry and aerospace are not really the combinations you'd think of when you think, oh, there's a whole host of opportunities in that arena. But when I'd been working in the woods and working for the forestry companies, I was like, man, this technology is archaic. I know that there are things out there better for remote sensing, for understanding how we're measuring trees, affecting change in the environment using our harvesting capabilities. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this, because basically what it was is, over the past 40 years, someone's like, oh, here's this little problem in forestry and measuring this tree. So they create one little specific software and it works really well for that single company. And so they use it for 30 years and they're like, yeah, maybe we can make some money and sell it elsewhere. And it kind of works for somewhere else. But then you got 30 other people doing that same thing. And all of a sudden the industry is now filled with all these little teeny technologies that don't talk to each other. They don't match up well. And it's really just kind of herky-jerky to try and navigate. And you say, well, satellites and satellite imaging is all-encompassing, right? I mean, you have the ability to look over the entire Earth every day. So there's got to be something that I know, with GIS and remote sensing and also on the sustainability side, someone has to have that idea. And basically, I ended up stumbling across Planet just through searching through LinkedIn and Google and Handshake and working with the Career Center and really just understanding, all the different internships are out there. And from a general search to a really specific search. And when I started getting really specific, that was actually how I found this niche. And I came across it's called the Impact Measurement Internship. And basically what we're doing is at Planet, they've got the largest private network of manufactured and operated satellites in the world, and using space to help life on Earth. And they can image the Earth every day. And so in the impact measurement department, we work with the different clients who source their imaging to understand, hey, how can they use it not only for their operational stability and profitability, but also their sustainability? How can we help you measure your company's impact on the environment in which you operate, but also at a global level as well? And so that I was in a 12-week internship. I sent them probably the most informal cover letter that I sent throughout the entire application process. I'd send all the regimented, structured, copy and paste from here, or cater it really, specific to the companies. And when I came across Planets, I just let them know, I was like, hey, this is the most in line with my mission personally and my long-term career goals that I've come across, and it's blowing my mind right now. I told them, I was like, this is absolutely insane. I think in my first 2 sentences, I was like, I had to do a double take when reading your post because it was so in line with what I wanted to do.
I know you talked to a couple people, informal interviews with people, and did they help you find, or was this really like a search down, be specific in what I'm like what they teach us in career professional development?
A little bit of both for sure. I reached out to some folks, both who I knew and cold called in Boeing, because their sustainability department has been really kind of pushing off. They just released their first sustainability report this year. But I knew that I wanted to work in sustainability and aerospace and find a way to support, forestry in the future if that was possible. But the big, great space race, so, everyone's going, all these billionaires are going, but, reality is they do have to take care of things here at home first. And so, I started looking both through friends and family and cold calling folks at Boeing, Virgin Orbit, Virgin Galactic, Northrop Grumman, working through the Career and Professional Development Center to get interviews with folks at those companies. And a lot of it was just informational and understanding the role that sustainability is going to play in business, both in the past at these, legacy companies, but also going forward for some of the more innovative ones. And that second part, that latter part, was really what was really helpful when it came to securing the internship at Planet. They've only started in 2012, and they're based out of San Francisco. They've got HQs in DC and Berlin as well, but they just kind of had this rapid expansion on this sustainability mission that's really intimately tied to their bottom line.
If you'll allow me, I do have a question about Planet, because that's an interesting company to me. I wonder if I'm in the middle of Minnesota or Wisconsin. I know that my operation has the potential to do some damage to the environment around me. Is Planet a company that I could tap into to find out what is our damage to our local environment or the greater environment?
Yeah, I mean, without knowing the details of what their contractual negotiations are, they do have a lot of different applications and collaborations that basically just, their network is so expansive, it lends itself to a lot of those different things when you're like, I want to know what my impact is. So if you're a company that's pumping out emissions out of Wisconsin or something like that, they've actually just recently launched this collaboration. It's called Carbon Mapper, where they're using hyperspectral imaging to quantify carbon emissions. So that's a layman's term. You're sending the satellite over, it's looking at a cloud of emissions coming out of a pipe, and it's able to measure the carbon content of those emissions. And so you say, oh, that's interesting. What, where is that really relevant? It's like, well, if I'm a larger company, like say BP, and I'm saying, oh, here are my emissions every year. All of a sudden, you've got this literal fact checker flying over the earth that says, hey, we're going to, look at your company. You say, we're emitting, X tons of carbon out of our plant in Minnesota or Wisconsin every year. You say, well, yeah, actually, you know what? You're doing better than that. You're actually emitting X minus this, or, you're worse. It's X plus, a couple extra tons. So you got to clean that up.
Oh man, that can go in a whole bunch of different directions in terms of people who are watching over your back, or then in terms of yourself as a company want to know what you're doing.
Sure, I mean,
everything.
It's about the democratization of this information that should be public knowledge, right? And I think you'll have people on both sides of the spectrum being like, well, this is crazy. We've got satellites now that are spying on us and checking our emissions, and satellites have been spying on us for
a long time, right? Yeah, you might as well use it, as you said, to do some good to the world.
If there's a public good that can be gained from it, like, why not? You know? And it's interesting for sure. It's one of those things where it's like, well, if you have access to generate this much imagery, terabytes of imagery every year, every day, or I'm not exactly sure what their storage is, but if you're generating all this imagery, what's your obligation? It's like if you're looking and you're seeing something fantastically good, you want to report that. But what happens when you scan something really bad? Who are you obligated to report that if it's not in your backyard? It's like if you're looking out your window and you see something, what do you say?
Right.
Do you call the police? Do you call your neighbor and say, hey, go check this out? Do you call the local authority, whatever it is? So,
yeah, at that level, they're probably whatever is beyond petabytes of storage. I guarantee you with that one. What I understand is you're going to continue that internship as we go into our second year.
Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do it continuing part-time. And so we were working on this project where I was working with their forestry clients and understanding how they use the Planet imaging to support their operations, but also maybe how it could support them with producing some sustainability metrics for their sustainability reporting. Basically understanding how best Planet's imaging data can support both sustainability and profitability within the commercial forestry industry. And we really started gaining some momentum right towards the end of the 12 weeks. And I said, look, this is, I approached him, I said, this has been a fantastic opportunity for the first 6 weeks. I was like, this is great. I know this is what I want to keep doing. Is there any way, you guys can let me continue? And they're like, oh yeah, this is great. Obviously it's got to work on both sides. They had to be pleased with the work I'm doing, I hope. But now through the next 12 weeks, we're road mapping out right now what it looks like to work part-time for the company, to do full-time for school. And personally, for me, the idea is to do that and then move into full-time with the company as soon as I can, if I can keep that momentum rolling. And assuming that they continue to like the work I
do. They will with no problem. I can almost guarantee that. I'll ask a couple questions here and then we'll wrap. First is, you're going into the second year of a full-time MBA program with a part-time job and a family at home.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that balance, because there are probably enough people who are either coming in or in the program who wonder how they're going to balance those things. That's only a year, but obviously it's still something to think about.
I mean, for the purposes of this, family is defined as a wife and a dog.
There you go.
No child yet. But it for sure was something to consider. You know, it was pretty easy to balance work and school virtually because you're just at the same computer. And now it's a little different when you got to commute to campus. And
Right.
and I realized it really, like, if you're in the full-time program, you have to treat that like a job, where it's like, you know what, you may have class from 1 to 5, but show up at 9 o'clock and get work done for, you know, either that class or other classes or for the next week, or just be in a environment that's conducive to being productive, right? It's one thing when you're at home and you can just kind of easily look over and click on the TV or like, be like, oh, you know what, I got some chores that I gotta, you know, get done. But that balance of the three, of like home life, part-time work, and schoolwork, you know, the full-time MBA is the one you say, this is, you know, it's 2 years of dedication. We're going to do that. You know, and I've had that conversation and I said, you know, we got to go full bore on this. Right. And the part-time work is great. And, you know, being able to have a healthy home life and, you know, not having classes on Fridays is awesome because we can, you know, take off the PCH and go to Ohio or Santa Barbara or cruise around. I mean, it's not impossible, but it does take planning, and it does take like dedicating yourself and really planning out blocks of time to make it happen. And just being very clear with those expectations, not only with school, but with the professional, you know, workspace as well. I've been very fortunate that they're very flexible. They're like, hey, yeah, you know, school's first. We want you to get done with that. You know, we want you to finish up school and come work for us. So obviously dedicate yourself to that. But you know, on the flip side, you know, the small conversations I have say, hey, you know, I may have some work come up and, you know, may have to miss class for a portion of time or miss a meeting here. And, you know, understandably, that's the goal of the MBA as well, to have like gainful employment at an amazing company and be able to, you know, give back and value to the program. So I think it's a give and take from both sides.
Okay. Excellent. Well, last question here, and then we'll wrap, is what do you really want to walk away from this second year when you walk away with the MBA? I mean, you already locked down the internship, which hopefully turns into a job. But if there was one thing you could walk away with outside of what you've already locked down, what would it be?
I mean, you also come to an MBA for the connections and the people and understand that all these people are in the same environment as you and want to, you know, further themselves, both personally, but also their networks. And you can't do that virtually as much as you want to, as you can in person. Obviously, it's a little, you know, to be honest, it's a little like awkward coming back and seeing everyone's faces behind masks now, because we got to see everyone's faces virtually all the time. Exactly. But no, I think there is this in-person component of the MBA that is severely lacking, and you just can't make up for it virtually. And that's what it was, you know. But I'm looking forward personally to, you know, pushing through on those connections and those networks and understanding more about my classmates at a level beyond just the, you know, 2-inch by 2-inch cube you get or square that you get on the video.
Right. Yeah. Well, Moseley, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the Pepperdynamics podcast.
Yeah, fantastic to be here.
Of course, Will Moseley is the one that gave us the name Pepperdynamics, so I always wanted to have him on just to...
That's right. When you blow up, you just remember me.
We'll try and do that. Excellent. That was Will Moseley. He is a second-year MBA student here at Pepperdine Graziadio Business School. Of course, I am Ty Brown, also second-year full-time MBA student at Graziadio. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.